some of the mining companies here, when mining was big, you know, remember the old song, 16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. Say, Peter, don't call me because I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Company store, what's that? The people lived on that reservation, they worked on it, and they had what they had for white folks here, a company store. You never got anywhere. Like sharecropping. Some kind of way, no matter what you do, the money that you owe boss man for the mule, for the barn, and for the seed, always just barely makes it, or a little lower, or $5 higher than what you owe boss man for the rent. So it's more effective than slavery. Why? Because slavery, you gotta pay for all this stuff. The slave, you let the guy farm all that, he's gonna farm it the best he can. He's gonna work harder for himself than he would for the master. He ain't gonna take no breaks and go hide in the woods if he can, right? He's not gonna do that. Why? Because this is mine, he's thinking. So, banana republics are, I'll put it this way. Does anybody ever remember the good neighbor policy? Franklin Roosevelt, right? The relationship with North America and South America was so bad. I mean, one of the generals said, I could have taught Al Capone a few things about his job. He said, I kept South America free for the big banks, for the big companies, and General Smedley, one of them guys. Huh? Smedley Butler. That's Smedley, that's him. He said, I could have taught Al Capone stuff. He was big down there in the 1930s. The point is, the relationships were so bad with South America that when Franklin Roosevelt came in, he had some human policies. And he called our new policy is the good neighbor policy. We want to live in this hemisphere as a good neighbor. It didn't last long, but he said, we want to be a good neighbor. Imagine a policy is so bad for your neighbors down there that you have to have a specific policy called a good neighbor policy. That we want to be with you as a good neighbor. Now that don't mean that they didn't still shoot, whether it was Cuba or whoever it was, it didn't make no difference. The banana republics, to answer the question, is republics that if you put a guy in that did what Americans told him, he would be fine. Like Batista, that was head of Cuba, he was a sergeant in the army. That's all he was. He was a sergeant in the army. Well, sergeant. Idi Amin was a sergeant too, at the King's Rifles. But he became the ruler of Cuba. And right now, the people down in Florida are still worshiping Batista, wishing he was back, or they could get back down to Florida and Fidel and all of them could go. Those were banana republics. As long as they, the black communities is banana republics. Banana Negro republics, yeah. As long as the people inside the community, the leaders, sell their soul to white folks, they're all right. Anybody get out of line, get to talking about helping the people and all that, you can say you're going to help the people as long as you don't do it. Everybody, the mayor down there, all of them say it, but they do policies. They done up the taxes on one of our properties to get rid of us so that the white folks can come in the southeast. When we come out here, did nobody want to come here. But now they want it back. They said, we got to fix this for white folks. But the mayor is not going to say, we trying to get rid of all you niggas. They're all almost gone now. And you wait. Remember years ago we said as soon as the white folks get back in D.C., they're going to make it possible for you to carry guns. It was 10 years ago they said you can own guns again. And the white folks, the Negro police always told the white folks, well, get a shotgun. That's what they told white folks, hey, get a shotgun. But anyway, now, observation period for us is over. This observation period, let's say if we want to consider, okay, 1980, 1985 was really a heavy learning period. From 85 to 89, when we came here in 89. Okay. The period for the last several years have been an observation period for us. We haven't been doing a lot physically. Why? Because boss man is on the attack. There's no sense of you, right, using up all your energy trying to defend yourself against this attack and that attack. That's what he's doing. So as you evolve, you learn how to conserve your energy. When I said to Brother Imam Tufayl is a witness, when I was in Oakland out there some years ago, a few years ago, everything that would happen in Oakland, I would call him that night and discuss the whole thing. You know, we discussed the evolution too. Hey man, this is really a serious spirit. What they're doing is physical. They think they're gonna run you crazy and make you mad. But to me, it was a very spiritual period, and we talked every night. To prove it was a spiritual period, when I was attacked in the Masjid a couple of years ago, there was no physical response. That means everything that you were studying, you accomplished that. Now, the period of observation is over. And I have a few of these, like stages of growth in the Islamic movement. That's one. Evolution of the Islamic movement. These are just some titles I picked up. Stages of growth in the Islamic movement, part 1. And one of our lovely ones. Revelation and revolution. That was nice. Revelation and revolution. That's a little old. That's 95. A call to organized struggle. We're in all of these periods right now, except it's on a higher level. See, we passed through all of these stages. We live through all of these stages. As a community, I have to say that we're the only community that has even come close to surviving. If we were to say that we're the only African American independent movement in the United States, that would be true. It would be absolutely true. Okay. So, what happens in movement is that as you grow and you evolve, right, the system uses more tactics and techniques against you. When they use those tactics and techniques, if you survive, you evolve. So whatever they apply, it's natural evolution. It's like science says, any living organism, in order to survive, it must either adapt or adjust to its environment, or change its environment. That means any living organism, if it's going to survive, it has to adjust to that environment. It has to adapt to that environment, or it has to change that environment. Right? Okay. This is just elementary school biology, that's all. But it's true. Okay. And it gets deep when you get into to apply those principles to movement. What that means is we have evolved because the system has used so much against it. We delayed and delayed and delayed, all the time observing what he does and what he's doing. He has evolved by us lasting so long. He's evolved beyond anything. He can't do anything else. Well, a little murder, different brothers pop up, disappear. That's normal. They can't do that. But that's what the camera, that's what all these articles, everything is for that. It's not a protection, but it says, we done told our story over and over and over and over and over again, and everybody done heard it. So if anything happens, one, people know Boss Man did it. Two, they start taking your words for serious. Or he wouldn't have disappeared. He wouldn't have died. He wouldn't have started his car and blew up, right? So this is psychological protection. In other words, remember, the system is going to do what it does. You can't stop the system. You can't stop the white man from being white. It just ain't going to work, right? And remember, he has been successful, what he calls success, at stopping everybody that wanted to improve or get bigger and better. He blocked everybody. Okay, now, here we come. Some kind of way, time, place, circumstance, longevity. Longevity. That means we have outlived and outlasted everybody. With the same idea and concept. That means the system has exhausted their ability to implement anything. They've exhausted. When they use a perfect idea, if you want to turn the heat up just a little bit or something. So if you want to use the period between the 90s and up into the 2000s, during that period, it's unbelievable. Man, we had big wind-out conferences, Unity wind-out. At UC Berkeley, we had tons of programs here, right? Demonstrations. We were actually famous in this region. Brothers in Black, right? People would hand their babies when we'd be up on stage. They'd hand us the babies, they'd take pictures of their babies. Remember that? Sure. At all the demonstrations. Okay, well, what happened to that? What happened to all the big programs at UC Berkeley? What happened to all the Masjid in California, in Denver, and Philadelphia, everywhere? What happened to all of those centers? Okay. What they were doing in those days was They figured that we'll use Imam Musa as a figurehead. We'll allow him to move out front, the leader of As-Sabiqun movement, the Amir, but under will be all our people. So Abdul Malik, all those brothers everywhere was on their team. So when we shocked them in the middle 2000s, and we did it gradually, we started talking about snitches, tattletales, and we started talking about Oakland as a clearinghouse. Clearinghouse meant that if you got the FBI, CIA, all those people at your masjid, if you don't have a clearinghouse or one person managing that, right, then they'll be bumping into each other. You have FBI agents beating up CIA agents, right, because they won't know that they're agents. So you have to have a clearinghouse means that they're going to run everything that they're doing through that one person. In Oakland, it was Abdul Malik. They ran everything to him. When did we know it? We knew it the day he walked in the door. Back in the 80s, we just knew it. I don't want to talk about it, go into all, but we just knew it because we already had the game for what we was doing. We had that level of game. When they realized that it wouldn't work, they panicked. So Abdul Malik left. Then they brought Mukhtar in to say, hey, we made a mistake. We left too quick and we left him with all this, that, and other. So we got to go in now and get all of that back. Remember, what's everything about Oakland? It's about property. It's about selling. And then we just observed. We let them go and go and go, and now they're trapped. It's not bragging. That's what superior knowledge, that's what hikmah does. Hikmah is a tool for you to use. And remember, something John Henry Clark said years ago. He said, I'm the teacher of this. I'm talking about black stuff. I'm not here to learn this. I'm here to teach you this. That's what he told people. Okay, he was old and blind by then. Well, I'm not old and blind, but I've studied this stuff. Well, I'm old, but I'm not blind. Well, not technically. So, brothers and sisters, where are we at right now? We're at a period where we have observed all of these things. We have manipulated the system beyond it has never been manipulated like we have. We've manipulated every talk we give, everything we do is for a reason. It's for a reason. Okay. First, we was like everybody else. We were victims of American oppression. That's what we was. As we began to hang in there over a long period of time, then we became competitors. And remember, we said this years ago, eventually we domesticated the system. It's like you domesticate a cow, or you domesticate them to use. We domesticated the American system. So everything they did, it was for our purpose. Or they didn't know it for our purpose. Okay. So they go in your accounts and they steal all your money, right? They don't give it to Mukhtar, because Mukhtar, if a nigga got your money, he gonna run off. He sold one of the buildings in Oakland for at least $1 million. The taxes was $4,500 or something. So You know, it's way up there. He ain't got that, they ain't give that money to him. They just have him do it. You see, it's just ridiculous. You think if him and Khadijah had, let's say, $800,000, right? And they didn't send videos and all that saying that they had a crack habit and a dope habit. You know, so they ain't got a crack habit, they got the police habit. The police is telling them Negroes what to do. But tell the truth. If a nigga burn your account, right, and he sell one of your properties for $800,000 or $1 million, do you think he's gonna sit right there in Oakland and call you every day? Yeah, I just stole your property. Yeah, I did this, that, right? He's not gonna do that. That's not correct human behavior for what they did. If he did that, it was to harass, right? Harass and stalking. You know, they technically stalk, but the stalking is welcome stalking. You got to remember, we're dealing with a system that nobody has ever defeated, right? The movement people, they haven't. So, are we real? Are they real? Is this human history that we're talking about all it? Is it real? If it's real, then they're real. The children are real. Our families are real, right? The environment is real. We always talked about 2020. 2020 was always on the calendar to set the stage for the future. It was never any, and you see this is the seriousest year we've had is 2020. But, so we're starting back to work. Let's start back to work. 2020 is a stage of evolution to give us a picture, a clear picture of what our work is for the next period. That's what 2020 was about. They thought, well, 2020 vision, you got a vision for 2020. No, 2020 vision, we're going to watch 2020, see what happened, because 2020, you can taste it. It's going to set the stage for the next several years. So we know where we're headed for the next several years. So the first year, we want all of this operational. Editors, writers, everything like that. Propagandists, all that stuff.